Hi viewers, welcome back to our channel. Today I am bringing a new episode with a new story. The story's title is Self-Criticism, a Jataka tale published in the Chandamama magazine. So let's move towards the story. When Brahmadatta was ruling Banaras, the Bodhisattva was born as the king of Indraprastha. His name was Dhananjaya. During his rule, the people were completely free from misery, such as floods and famines, and were very happy. Dhananjaya's righteousness and philanthropy were widely known all over the continent. During the same time, King Kalinga ruled the country from his capital Dantapur. One year, there was a famine in that kingdom due to drought. Hunger stalked the land. Many children perished in the arms of their mothers. The entire populace lost its nerve. This state of affairs upset King Kalinga very much. He called his ministers and asked them, what can be the reason for the failure of rains in our land this year? What should we do to get over this menace of famine? The courtiers replied and the ministers replied, O king, when we go or stray away from the path of righteousness, such calamities occurs. For instance, King Dhananjaya of Indraprastha never deviates from the path of virtue. No calamity has ever visited his kingdom. It rains there thrice a month and the people are exceedingly happy. In that case, King Kalinga told his ministers, go and meet King Dhananjaya and get him to write down the virtues he adopts in his rule on leaves of gold and bring them to me. I too shall adopt and save the country. The ministers of Kalinga took leaves of gold and travelled to Indraprastha. They met King Dhananjaya. O virtuous king, we come from Kalinga, where people are dying of terrible famine. You are the very incarnation of virtue. You rule your people absolutely righteously, so that your people live happily, free from all calamities. Would you be kind enough to write down on those leaves of gold the rules of righteous administration? We shall take them back to our Lord, who will put them into practice and save our country. The ministers of Kalinga placed the leaves of gold before King Dhananjaya. But King Dhananjaya folded his hands and said, pardon me, wise ministers, I am not competent to write down the rules of righteousness. For once I myself had transgressed the path of virtue. I shall tell you how. The Kartik festival is celebrated in our land every third year. On that day, the king has to perform a yajna on the bund of a tank. At the end of it, he should shoot 4 arrows in 4 directions. On a particular occasion, I shot the arrows, but only 3 of them were recovered, the fourth having fallen into a tank. It fell with a force that many fishes and frogs died. Thus, I deviated from the path of virtue. If my country is free from calamities, it must be because of the virtue of someone else in the court. Kindly find who it is. The ministers of Kalinga were surprised to hear this. After meeting Dhananjaya, they went to Mayadevi, the king's mother, and told her what the king said. They asked her if she could oblige them with writing down the rules of righteousness on the leaves of gold. Ah, my friends, the venerable lady replied, I too have strayed from the path of virtue once. When my elder son gave me a gold necklace, I thought since my elder daughter-in-law was rich, I should give it to the younger one. But after doing so, I was beset with remorse for having down a distinction between my two daughter-in-laws. How can I compare or how can I be competent to write down the rules of righteousness? Please find someone else. Then the ministers approached the king's brother, Nanda. But he too confessed that he had transgressed the path of virtue. I take a ride to the palace every evening in my chariot. At times I stay back for the night. If I leave my whip in the chariot, my charioteer knows that I shall return, and he waits for me. If I take the whip with me, the charioteer drives away and comes for me only the next morning. Well, one evening I left my whip in the chariot, intending to return soon. But suddenly it began to rain, and my brother, the king, detained me in the palace. All through the night, my charioteer waited for me, getting soaked in the rain. It was an unforgivable on my part to have him put in that discomfort. The minister then went to the king's Purohit, hoping to find the required merits to fill the leaves of gold. But he too had to confess to a breach of virtue. He said, "One day I was going to the court when I saw a chariot with gold fittings. Seeing it, I had an urge to request the king to make a gift of that chariot to me. The moment the king saw me, he told that the chariot was a gift for me. I was so ashamed of my cupidity that I had to decline the gift. So don't take me as an embodiment of virtue, which I am not." As a last resort, the ministers of Kalinga went to minister of Dhananjaya, but he too had a confession. One day, he said, "I went to measure a peasant's land. All the exact spot where the markings were was to be drawn onto the ground, I found a small hole. If I avoided the hole and drove the peg to a side, either the peasant or his neighbor would lose a bit of land. So in the name of accurate justice, I ordered the peg to be knocked into the hole. As this was being done, a small crab came out of the hole and got crushed. Tell me how I am entitled to write down the right rules of righteousness." The baffled ministers of Kalinga were at last struck with a bright idea. They wrote down on the gold leaves of the stories they had heard and took them to their king. King Kalinga read them and revealed the best virtue is that the awareness of righteousness. Well, with self-criticism as his motto, he ruled his country, and the people were freed from all calamities and lived very happily. So this was the story, the self-criticism, published in the Chandamama magazine for you guys. So till I come back with a new episode and a new story, stay safe and take care. And in case if you have not liked, commented or shared or subscribed to our channel, I would rather request you to kindly like, share, comment and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Till then, this is your Chandamama signing off from your channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.